I want to start by asking you, playing this character, she's, high-ranking government official, and she represents a lot of uh, danger, but also authority at the same time. It's interesting to me in our current climate, and I'm curious how you see it. There's these clandestine things going on. She has a lot of power, but she also represents a kind of a threat. And I'm curious what your take on that is.
Lordy, we have so many people in high places that are absolute ticking time, you know what's, that we're just trying to get through it before they push the wrong freaking button. So, I mean, that's how I see it as Alfred. But being one of those sorts in the series Last Frontier, I have to I have to come to this uh, to my work completely being able to see out of the eyes of my character. I'm nothing like my character. My character's deputy director of the CIA, and she has to live in that gray area that other people avoid, or they think they're above it, or you know, they either think they're good and they couldn't possibly do bad, or they think they're bad and they could never be any good.
Right.
But the truth is, we're all capable what any one of us is capable of being or doing. And so she operates in that and she does it comfortably. She calls the shots because she can stay steady no matter what is called for. She can stay non sentimental. Yeah, she was raised for this moment.
And you stay yourself. You said something that's like you have to see the world through her eyes,
Yeah.
whatever those eyes are. Is that's just consistent with any role you play? I mean, you
Oh,
play
yeah, as an
every kind of
actor,
role. Yeah.
whenever the actor, that's your job is to keep yourself out of it. The way you think, your preferences, your predilections, the way you even speak, the accent you speak with, the way you move. You have to find, otherwise you're not doing your work. You're just acting like yourself, saying the lines. But you have to uh, take that character and only take it if it's well written. Take that character, stand it up, flesh it out, give it a history, a very specific history, that timeline up to the moment that we meet her as a viewer, uh, and then you speak out of that because you can't judge a character that you're playing because people are just living as themselves, and you're playing a person.
Do you ever find that Alfre has taken home some of the things that she was when you put her aside and you're becoming these other people, and then you're like, oh, I still got like some of this in me from
You
X
know,
character.
I don't take things home because I'm not a method actor. I
Right.
believe in, playing the play, but I find my character, that's my work. Uh,
Mm.
before I get to the set, before I start the actual production, uh, but my family makes fun of me all the time because I have what my husband calls wandering vowels because you have to learn. I'm a person, I believe you learn to speak in the accent or dialect of your character. If you're supposed to be in, I don't know, let me choose somewhere like you're in Dripping Springs, Texas, then I do not want to hear you talking about coffee, you
Yeah.
know, and I don't want to hear you talking about coffee. Find the way that person speaks. And so what I'm left with a lot that I don't really realize until I'm living life is suddenly something will fly out of my mouth and one of my kids and my husband will go like, "Oh, really? And where did you just go? Where are you from?" But because
So you're multi-regional all of a sudden.
whenever I work, the first thing I start to do is I start to work on that person's dialect
Mm.
because you want it to be natural to you. So I start to do it just going to the market. I start to infuse my speech with that. People at the natural food store, I'm not going to give anybody publicity, but, they're going like, "Alfie must be working on something. She's talking funny today." Because one thing that happens when you get emotional, you go back to your mother tongue.
Yeah.
So you
Yeah.
can study and be good in a particular part, uh, but as soon as that person gets emotional, they go back to Boston if that's where you
Right.
first
Oh,
felt
yeah, you
emotion.
hear it all the time. I
Yeah.
wanna I wanna ask you about a couple other projects. You've had so many amazing projects in your on your resume, but one thing that's interesting to me is there's a story that for Captain America: Civil War that Robert Downey Jr. wanted you to be in that role because it's such a pivotal scene. I'm curious, is that true? And, like, what's your relationship with him that kinda, because I know you'd worked together in the past, and that moment is very important in the lore of the whole Marvel Cinematic Universe.
You know what? Yes, it is true that that Downey Jr. wanted me. We met at a really interesting point. We did Heart and Souls
Yeah.
in San Francisco, and he had just done Chaplin soon before that, and I think that brought him into a new recognition of himself as artist, not just as an actor, but as an artist, and a new sense of uh, responsibility and all of that. So we became close through a lot of conversations, and yeah, he's a grown man, but I kind of became like anti Alfred in a way. And so, yeah, we just remained close. We socially all the way through. And so, when he was making the decision, like, oh, okay, so Tony Stark is really going to lay down, for the government, and he said it's got to it has to compel him from a deep level. And so he asked me, of course, they said, "Mm-mm, no, can't do it." And he said, "Got to do it." And so I got to do it. Yeah.
That's
And I
that's
love
awesome.
it. Oh God, I love him.
Yeah, he's
Yeah.
great. You guys are great together. Real quick, last one of my favorites, Star Trek First Contact. You're incredible in it. Tell me just a little bit about that scene. The line must be drawn, you going toe to toe with Patrick Stewart in one of the great Star Trek scenes ever, really.
Oh my. Well, I trained for the stage, and of course, Sir Patrick is a stage actor. And so, when you get not all stage actors translate cinematically
Yes.
comfortably, but I think both of us have did that. I was always taking the training to come into film, but he spent real time on the stage. So there is something that happens that we don't get afraid if they load us up with words and pages, and we don't rush moments. And so it's so great to live in that space with a person that, I don't like boxing. It gets me,
Mm,
but and I just think of this, I always like to watch Ali box, and if he had an opponent that actually boxed instead of slug, or whatever, because you get to see it's like, oh, watching the dance, and to
right.
me, God, I can't believe I brought up boxing. There's so many other things I could have brought up,
Perfect.
but it's something that I'm not attracted to that I can appreciate when I see it done beautifully. And so that's how I felt with that, and we knew how both instinctively how to pace each thing that needed to happen to a crescendo, and I just love it. It's like I should have said something like a great tango or something.
No, it's boxing is perfect. Thank you so much for your time I went over. It's been lovely speaking with you. Have a great
And
rest of
you
your
as
day,
well.
everyone.
All right,
Bye.
dude. Bye-bye.